Angeles doesn't really have a fall. Well, in the traditional sense, I guess. The trees lose their leaves, but it's far less poetic. Instead of gently crisping to an ochre hue, they seemingly rid of their soft green leaves in a temper tantrum overnight. A protest at the looming drop in temperature. Or, maybe an eager attempt to mimic foliage of the cooler coast. A well-intentioned dud, like LA pizza and bagels. Our summer lazes into autumn. In true Los Angeles form, she arrives fashionably late and slightly weather confused. Doesn't really hit until November, if that. And still, the change in season is more of a suggestion, a mindset. Maybe that's why it's a city of creatives. These months nearly demand it. We must imagine and dream our way out of Groundhog Day. And we do. Different colored candles, pumpkin scents. Even though outside of it's 80 degrees, we'll throw on a screensaver of a crackling fire. Change our wardrobes even though we're sweating underneath wool. Just because change feels good. Because there's something about fall. A metaphorical shedding of skin. Stripping to barren bones. Whittling down to the foundation. Dramatically preparing for a clean slate. I like how the seasons shift gently. Even if it doesn't feel like that, if you pay attention, the weather starts dipping in the fall. The leaves start changing and dropping one by one. Winter comes, everything's barren, everything's cold. And then through the frost, seedlings are born, new life. I'm not rooted into the ground, but I found paying attention to that and finding a way to gently change along with it gives me a purpose, makes this whole life thing a little more precious. Something about this year feels different. This autumn in particular. I can see things changing. Maybe not the leaves, but other things. Like me. It feels like the first fall. My first fall. The pinnacle. The one you thirst for. One that transforms you. That produces the prose English professors beg to dissect. Now, I could fit the LA stereotype and blame it on my Saturn return, or I could pretend that a force as great as the planets themselves have no effect on us, that we're nothing more than action figures in someone else's schoolyard game. Or perhaps this is all just a simulation, conducted at the hands of no one, a circumstance of pure chance. But I'm gonna blame it on my Saturn return. Because something feels different. I feel different. For the first time in a long time, I want to change. The last 3 years have felt like an endless summer, if we're gonna stick with this season analogy. But not in the easy, carefree, inhibitionless way. Not in the warm way. In the stifling way. Panting, huffing, powering through a haze of smog and sticky sweat. Like layering sunscreen over dirty skin, a thick coat of grime. The kind of summer that's hot and hard and in none of the good ways. I just felt stuck. I didn't know what was sticking me. I didn't know how to get unstuck, or even if I wanted to get unstuck. I just felt stuck. As someone who doesn't really need a lot of motivation, who's really prone and easy to distract, who is quick to find things to love and to like. Maybe this isn't something that people know about me or it's unexpected, but I'm a pretty positive person. I think a healthy complaint is great, but I can't really stay in a bad mood. I hate bad moods. I just kind of want to run away and find something to make it all better. But the last couple years, it was like the first time that I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to make it better. The things that used to work stopped working. And my therapist once said, coping mechanisms aren't forever. They'll serve you until they no longer serve you. And it kind of just all at once felt like that happened. I lost myself. Like I really started to wonder who I was without the things that I have viewed as my definitions for so long. And like the people who I viewed as reflections of me what happens when you don't like that reflection anymore? Or what happens when you don't see yourself in that anymore? You grow past these things, you grow past these people, or you just grow in different directions, whether you want to or not. That's something that I found to be just really unnerving, really unsettling, and it just threw me for a loop, you know? Because like there are things that you think are constants, things that you don't have to worry about, things that have already been checked off your list, and that list is not real for a reason. It's made up because none of it is permanent, and it doesn't have to be in a bad way. I think I really worried about losing people and making sure that I did everything I could to not lose them, how I needed to behave and what I needed to accept and say that would ensure my spot in their life forever and would ensure that things wouldn't change. And saying it out loud now, I can hear how pathetic to be mean to myself and to be kinder to myself, how like sad and lost that sounds. But it's just how I felt. I tend to like bleed out for people. I think that's also why I'm a ghoster, because I don't actually think I'm ghosting. I think I'm not good at letting people in. And while I'm really decisive about some things, those decisions you don't want to make, but you're kind of being forced to make them, I don't want to do it until I have to. So I think that's why I've been stuck. It's like I finally understood the mindset of people who join cults. The desperation for belonging, the need to understand, the deep-seated uncomfortability with the aimless, and the yearn for purpose. In August, I said I wanted to go see a psychic, to get my tarot cards read. I told myself that it was because I needed direction. Like if they had told me to hitchhike across the country, I would have done it. And who knows, maybe I still would. But it was less about direction. And if I was being honest with myself, I wanted permission and I wanted confirmation about these like feelings and this voice in my head, which really was a feeling in my gut and the truth in my instinct telling me what I deserved and what I needed and what I should do and what was the right thing. But it's hard when you don't want it to be the right thing. I just felt so untethered, enduring the currents in a dinghy without a life vest, searching for any semblance of stability to hold on to. I Googled if I could write off self-help books. I didn't trust myself. My choices, my narrative, my reality. I didn't join a cult or see a psychic. I did what us avoidantly attached do well. I avoided. Sometimes I froze, but mostly I ignored, evaded, circumvented. Something shifted, like Legos clicking into place. The tides of clarity washed over me. And I have high hopes for this autumn. Its symbolic shedding of skin, scrubbing myself raw until every part of me is a familiar kind of new. Like the reflection I wanted to see. The version I'd want to play me in a movie. The mind's eye view of who I wished I could be. The personification of how people who love me see me. I think we have some avocados that might be ripe, so let's see. So far the biggest one we've gotten. That's not too bad. It's definitely bigger than the others, so just picking this one. And then it just happened. What I had longed for every year when the sun began to sink lower in the sky. An inkling, a whisper, that feeling of fall. And it happened to be perfectly timed with the actual season. This clarity that I got and this sense of peace of I've been mourning a life that I think I'm holding on to, but I'm not. But I realized that I'm not losing people. They're losing me. If I have to mold and shape myself to be somebody who feels like no matter what I do in that circumstance, they can't leave, they can't abandon me, like I'm perfectly palatable. That doesn't exist. People are gonna leave, and I can also leave. And I realized that, and it actually feels really freeing. I'm just ready for the change. And that used to be really scary, but it's not anymore. I'm ready to shed my leaves and prepare for this next chapter, this next season of me. It's like I woke up from hibernation, and I needed to.